The first round of US-Iran talks has concluded in Switzerland, and while diplomats are calling it encouraging progress, the road to a lasting peace deal is still very much under construction. Here's what happened. High-level negotiations kicked off Sunday morning at a Swiss lakeside resort, with Qatar and Pakistan serving as the mediating countries. Just after 3 in the morning local time on Monday, those two countries announced the talks had wrapped up and they had something to show for it. The US and Iran agreed to establish what's being called a deconfliction cell, a direct communication mechanism designed to ensure that military operations stop in Lebanon, where Israel and the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah have been locked in fighting for months. They also agreed to a line of communication to avoid miscommunication over the Strait of Hormuz, the vital waterway through which a massive share of the world's oil and gas flows. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, called the outcome major progress on social media, but was quick to note that the real test is whether the deconfliction cell actually works. And that caution is warranted, because even as negotiators were shaking hands in Switzerland, serious tensions were simmering just beneath the surface. On one side, Iranian negotiators came in demanding an end to the war between Israel and Hezbollah as a precondition for further talks. On the other, President Trump, even as Vice President J.D. Vance was opening the meetings by saying Trump wanted to turn over a new leaf with Iran, gave an interview to Fox News where he said he could do whatever I want after the current 60-day pause expires. He also told Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, who has insisted Tehran will never surrender its right to enrich uranium, to, quote, watch his mouth. Iran's lead negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, fired back on social media, warning the US to be careful about issuing threats and saying that Iranian armed forces were ready to respond. No matter how much they talk, he wrote, it is we who act. So what exactly did the talks cover? According to Iranian state media, the discussions focused mostly on Lebanon and the Strait of Hormuz situation, and notably, the thorniest issue of all, Iran's nuclear program, was left entirely for later. Iran has so far only reiterated its long-standing promise not to build a nuclear weapon, while President Pezeshkian said Sunday that Iran would never back down from its right to enrich uranium. Separately, the lifting of sanctions on Iranian oil was also reportedly discussed, with the head of Iran's national oil company, who attended the talks in person, telling state media that nearly half the country's monthly oil exports have already been shipped abroad in recent days, and that full exports could resume with full implementation of any deal. Meanwhile, there are still frictions on the ground. The Strait of Hormuz situation remains murky after Iran claimed Saturday it was closing the waterway over the Lebanon fighting, a claim the US military flatly rejected, saying Iran does not control the strait and that traffic continued to flow. Maritime analysts did note a drop in vessel traffic through the strait on Sunday, though the cause was unclear. In Lebanon, there were no reported Israeli strikes or Hezbollah attacks as of Sunday night, which is a fragile but notable quiet. The Israeli military lifted restrictions on communities in northern Israel near the Lebanese border, suggesting it does not expect an immediate escalation. But Hezbollah's leader, Naim Qassem, gave a speech Sunday categorically rejecting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's insistence that Israeli forces would remain in southern Lebanon indefinitely, and said Hezbollah would respond to any violations. Netanyahu, for his part, acknowledged he and Trump don't always agree, without disclosing the specifics, and said no country would do a better job than Israel at fighting Hezbollah. What this all adds up to is a diplomatic process that is moving, but barely, and against a backdrop of mutual suspicion, competing demands, and a nuclear question that nobody has touched yet. The first round of US-Iran talks in Switzerland may be over, but the harder conversations haven't even begun.